In this video, I'm going to discuss pre-industrial technology. And my objective is to complicate a simple vision you might have had of the development of technology before versus after the Industrial Revolution. I think it's perfectly reasonable to maybe assume that before there was an Industrial Revolution, there wasn't a whole lot of interest going on at all. There was just sort of technological stagnation. That's not quite exactly true. And I think that's the main picture you get from your reading from Mocure's Lever of Riches. I did not assign the first chapter to you, which is about classical antiquity. You might take a look at it if you're interested. I think a lot of folks have this image of the classical period, the Greek and Roman period, as one of great technological and intellectual discovery. And while it's true that there were great leaps forward intellectually, the Mocure story is that actually this period is characterized by a lot of missed improvements. I think my favorite one is that, for example, the Greeks and Romans could have figured out how to use lenses that are quite sophisticated, but they never thought that you could put them on your face, right? Like that's like a great example of a missed opportunity. What you read is the descriptions of the Middle Ages, early and late, and also the Renaissance. And I think, again, these chapters really betray a simplistic vision of what's going on in these periods. You might have learned that the Middle Ages, for example, was a period of great stagnation. And what Mocure tells us is that actually in these periods, like in the Middle Ages, there were great practical breakthroughs that made a big difference in the way that people lived. A lot of useful tools were developed. And what happens in this period is that there's a number of sources that all kind of come together, right? The insights that maybe weren't used very well from classical antiquity compared with new insights from Islamic societies, for example, and also some of their own ingenuity put together. Now, finally, Mocure gives us a kind of unexpected view as well of the Renaissance, which I had always stereotypically viewed as a period of great innovation. But actually what Mocure tells us is while this was a period of great theoretical breakthroughs, there was a big gap between theory and practice. So there were a lot of improvements in this period, but not necessarily technological revolutions. So I think in one slide this is quite a compelling story of pre-industrial technology. If you're ever asked to summarize this on a cocktail napkin, basically here you go. I hope you enjoy the Mocure reading. Joel is a really wonderful writer, and I think these are just a joy to read. I reread these chapters every time I teach this class, and I enjoy it every time. I want to now take you on a brief guided tour through some of the most important gadgets of the pre-industrial era, just to kind of give you a little bit more sense of how they worked and why they were important. First is the blast furnace. I think as you're reading Mocure, you're just kind of wondering, what is a blast furnace? What is this thing? Here's a quick diagram. There's a whole lot of moving parts. But the basic idea is what makes a blast furnace is the application of air that's not just from the atmosphere, right? It's the bellows. And even better, right, if you have a continuously powered bellows, here powered by, for example, a water wheel, then you're able to do a lot of high-powered smelting and create new materials that weren't able to be produced previously. Furthermore, Mocure gives us some description of water wheels. I want to just give you some pictures to give you a sense of why this might be important. Harnessing the power of water is a natural thing to do. Middlebury, Vermont was a first industrial revolution town in the U.S. that harnessed the power of water. But even this very simple technology, there are some subtle improvements that you can make to get a lot more out for the same setup, for the same power provided by water. So here's what we have as a sort of old-fashioned undershot water wheel, meaning the water goes under. This is a perfectly natural thing to build. However, with an overshot water wheel, okay, if you can make this happen, like with a waterfall, for example, you can use the power of gravity as well to further move the wheel. So that's a really powerful small change that makes a lot of difference. In discussion section this week, I want to just make sure that we all understand a small set of important pre-industrial inventions, starting with the fully rigged ship and lateen sail. We'll also talk a little bit about windmills, clocks, movable type, a little bit more about blast furnaces and particular kinds of iron, And I really enjoy talking about the horse collar, which is one of the great inventions of the Middle Ages. Next, we're going to spend quite a lot of time discussing agriculture. We discussed so much agriculture in this class because really the most important economic activity that most people are doing in this period before the Industrial Revolution is agriculture. Besides handicrafts, the most important source of output is farming. So it's really important to describe farming to understand how people were living. We're going to try to understand the nature of these pre-industrial farmers, whether they were capitalist or communist, if they were efficient, and we'll also try to understand how and why agriculture changed before the Industrial Revolution. Our conversation is going to center on a weird little island, which is England, so that we can properly set the stage for the Industrial Revolution.